Throttle, welcome to Axel's Garage. Well, we have a problem. We've got a couple problems, but we have one major problem. And if you're looking for a fast, let's get the job done video, this ain't it. This is going to be a wordy one. So, let's go through what's going on with this IROC. All right, it's an 88 Chevy Camaro IROC 5.7 tune-port injected engine. It's got an overdrive transmission in it. It's a real IROC, although it looks like it's a fake IROC, but it's actually a real IROC. And we were driving it around, no issues. Ran good. AC actually still works. Radio works good. The tack was, all messed up like these tacks usually get. And then we started having a problem with drivability. And it turned out to be a bad mass airflow sensor. So just to see if maybe the primitive computer in this would default to a safe value, I unplugged the mass airflow sensor, and the thing, although it would have a check engine light on because there was no mass airflow sensor, it ran like a bat out of hell. And we ran it like that for probably I'm going to call them seasons, because we only used this car from, around Memorial Day until Halloweenish. And then we kind of put it away for the winter. My wife will commonly use this when it's running good as her daily driver for the summer, especially if we're going to have a slew of decent weather days where she'll leave the T-tops out. Anyway, we ran it, and it was running good with the mass airflow sensor unplugged, and I didn't really care that the check engine light was on. The mass airflow sensors were like $100 for a good one, maybe 120, 130, something like that. So I was being cheap and not putting one in. And then a retired mechanic, who's a friend of mine, stopped over because he was cleaning his garage, and he actually found some third-gen Camaro parts in his garage, and he brought them over to me and said, "Hey, do you want these?" I said, "Sure." He goes, "Well, and the IROC was right there." He goes, "How's it running?" I said, "It's running like a bat out of hell." I said, "The only problem I have is I need a mass airflow sensor, but I unplugged it." Because he unplugged it. Said, "Yeah, I unplugged it, and the thing still is running great." He goes, "It should be falling on its face with it unplugged." I said, "I don't know. I guess maybe there's a safe value in there when it's unplugged, but it's running good." He goes, "Oh, that's odd." He goes, "But hey, if it's running, it's running." And no sooner than a couple of times we used it after that, it started to run like shit. And what I mean by run like shit was we couldn't drive it. We would start it up, and it would seem to be idling fine. But if you know your car and you know what your car sounds like at idle, it was just a little low. And as soon as you went to go give it the slightest bit of throttle, it would stall. And it wouldn't sputter out of fuel. It would just completely die like you turned the ignition off. And it didn't matter if you pressed the gas or went under the hood and moved the throttle itself. As soon as you gave it a little bit of throttle, done, off. And that was irrelevant of engine temperatures. So if the engine was fully warmed up or not, it didn't matter. And it was irrelevant of outside air temperatures, whether it was cool out, whether it was hot out, anything like that. However, if you start it up and let it idle, and then noticing that idle is just a little bit lower than it normally would be, and wait. Sometimes you waited a minute, sometimes it's 2 minutes, sometimes it was 10 minutes, sometimes up to 20 minutes was about the longest we had to wait. If you just wait and let it idle, all of a sudden that idle would just come up just a hair, just a little bit, and you knew that the old car here said, "I'm ready to drive." And when that happened, you could get in it and you could ride the balls off of it. And I mean, run it. And it ran great until you shut it off. And now when you start it back up again, there's a chance that it might just start up and go. But more times than not, you would start it up again. Now, engine fully warmed up, it started up again, and that idle would just be a little low, and you couldn't touch that throttle until it told you. And it didn't matter at that point. It didn't matter that it was fully warmed up. Sometimes it was a minute, sometimes it was 2 minutes, sometimes it was 10 minutes, sometimes it was up to 20 minutes. That you would wait for that idle just to kick up a little bit for the car to say, "I'm ready to drive." So, we have a problem. And doing some searching around on the online forums and message boards or whatever you call them nowadays, some people said mass airflow sensor. And I said, well, it can't be the mass airflow sensor because we've had it unplugged this whole time and it's been running good this whole time. But we know we need one. So let's put a new mass airflow sensor in. So I dug deep for some shekels, and we got a new Delphi brand mass airflow sensor, put that in, and no change. Check engine lights out, but no change. We changed the idle air control valve again. We had one in there, it was new, but I changed it again anyway. We checked the coolant temperature sensor, that seemed to be functioning fine. The what's the one with the throttle position sensor, we double checked the adjustment on that to make sure the voltage was reading right. We've done videos on that, and you can find them in the IROC playlist, and that was fine. And we're just scratching our heads. We're looking at message forums, and the only thing that people have said is could be a computer problem, but I didn't feel like it was a computer problem, because as it idled, all of a sudden it would give you something. I was pointing more towards ignition. Fuel pressure, a lot of people said fuel pressure. We've got a fuel pressure gauge actually sitting on it now. Fuel pressure is fine. Fuel pressure doesn't change when it goes from that rougher idle to the good idle. It's just there's something going on, and to me it seems mechanical. It almost seems like something, it's not something that has to warm up and expand, or a vacuum leak that has to seal up. Like I said, the temperature is irrelevant, engine temperature, outside temperature is irrelevant. And the way it cuts off, it's not running out of fuel, it's not stumbling off, it just cuts off instantly. So, I'm thinking something in the ignition. So I bought a coil. We have 2 vehicles that use these coils, so it's good to have one on the shelf. So I'm going to throw a part at it and try a coil. We tried a coil, no difference. I took the cap and rotor off, inspected the cap and rotor. They were a little more worn than I would expect, because they really weren't that old, but they weren't showing any obvious signs of damage or anything like that. But I'm starting to fixate on the distributor, because in Robbie's K5, same style engine, doesn't have the TPI. It's got a throttle body injection, but it's the same era. It's an 89, his Blazer. It's just got a throttle body instead of a TPI. Same setup. He had a problem with his distributor. So now I'm like fixated on the distributor. I remember his distributor, it was all rotted inside. And they're not getting wet. There's no reason for it to be rotted. I think they rot from just lack of use, and because we don't use this thing a lot. Could it be distributor? So now I take the distributor cap and rotor off, and I see that the guts under the rotor, whatever you want to call them, there's some moving parts in there that control the advance and everything. So they seemed rusty. I soaked them for a good day with penetrating oil, just letting it drizzle down in there, and really didn't seem to help too much. But I thought it did. I thought it was helping. So, Grandpa's coming with a wagon. What are you doing?
I'm bringing water up there.
Oh, okay. So that didn't really seem to do anything, but it made me feel better that I got that rusted metal with some seafoam deep creep. Put a new cap and rotor on, brass contacts, good quality stuff. Put it back together, started up, same thing. So that didn't help. But I'm still fixated on the distributor. And my thought process behind the distributor is, when you start it up, the computer sends an advance signal, so it advances it at idle. Because you have to, and if you look back in some of my this generation engine videos, whether it's the IROC or the Blazer, you'll see how to set the base timing, and you have to disconnect that wire. So there's 2 thoughts going on. Is that signal, that advance signal, causing the idle to be lower? And then all of a sudden that advance signal comes in and brings the idle up just a hair. It advances the timing, which brings the idle up just a hair, and now it's good to go. Or is the signal there, but the distributor's not doing it because the distributor's rotted out on the inside? Now, I can't tell whether it's really rotted. It's rusty in there, but that could be normal. But Robbie's Blazer had a problem with the distributor, and now I'm thinking this one. So how can I don't know where I'm going with the troubleshooting, but for some reason I'm fixated on timing. So what I thought was, let me hook up the timing light, an old school timing light, and start it up. And if it's running, now I could start it up right now, and it might be good to go. chances are it's not going to be. And then it'll be a little bit low. And check the timing where it's a little bit low. And then take that distributor wire also and disconnect it and check the timing and see if there was any change. I don't foresee there'd be any change. There should be a change, but I'm betting I'm not going to see a change. And then wait until it says I'm ready to drive and check the timing and see what the timing is. If the timing's different, then we know the reason. The reason is it doesn't have the timing isn't advancing like it should. So as soon as you hit that throttle, that timing should come up, and it doesn't. It cuts it out or something to that effect. Is what I'm thinking. I could also check that wire, go into the distributor to see maybe what kind of voltage or milliamps or anything like that. It's a single wire that goes. I don't know what it gives the distributor to say, hey, advance the timing. It's, like computer controlled timing advance. But although it's a computer controlled timing advance, something has to move in that something in that distributor magic has to happen. And I think if you got a rotted out distributor like Robbie's was in his K5, that it could be a problem. These aren't the regular HEIs, these are the small cap HEIs that have like that opening on the bottom for the wires. They're not the big cap coil and cap HEIs. So that's where we're at. I'm going to hook a timing light up and see if we can figure out if it's a distributor problem. Let's get it all set up. All right, so I got an old school timing light set up. My battery's full. I left it on the trickle overnight. I got my fuel gauge in there, which it's really not, we know it's not a fuel problem, but I left it connected. And I have a multimeter hooked up ground side to ground, and right up here in this harness is the brown wire with the black trace. This is the distributor advance connection. Some of them are going to be in the bundle here, some of them are going to be in the bundle behind the master cylinder, depending on the year, make, and model. But all these generation cars that have a distributor cap that looks like that with an external coil that looks like the HEI coil and cap coil, but it's not in the cap. That's the newer small cap HEI, they call it. So I don't know if this is going to be voltage, if it's going to be resistance. I have no idea. I am guessing it's going this way to the distributor. But we're going to start it up. We're going to see what idle state it is in when it starts. It could start with a good idle state. But we're going to start it up, see what idle state it's in. And if it's in the poor idle state, which I can't drive at idle state, I want to check the timing. Then I want to disconnect that and check the timing. And then I want to, with that disconnected, I want to see what kind of voltage readings or readings of anything I get there, to see if I'm getting something, and then maybe I can research what that signal is supposed to be. I don't know how I would find it even with the Googles, but we'll try it. If you know, comment below, please, and we'll try to figure it all out. Alright, running with it disconnected. I do have a check engine light on. I got 55 or so millivolts on that side. Nothing on this side. Check my timing. It's at the second point. I can't read it. I'm going to have to figure out what it is. I'll get right back to you. Alright, so I have the wire connected. Wire's connected, and it's idling low. My timing is jumping from 6 to 12, jumping around all over the place. If I can show you. I don't know if it's picking it up on film. It actually never goes from 8 to 12 is jump. 0, 2, 4, 6. No. 6 to 12 is the jump. So it's jumping from 6 to 12. When I started up with the wire disconnected, no computer advance, it's rock steady at 6. So that computer advance is supposed to bring it up, and I think that's what smooths the idle out. So I'm gonna leave it running, and we're gonna try to determine if when it smooths out that it's that the timing smooths out there. I think I got a distributor mechanical problem. All right, so you hear the idle here, a lot smoother, and now my timing is rock solid at like 16. Ignore the antifreeze and I'm leaking all over the place. That's a different issue. So now it's holding steady at 16 at idle. Fuel pressure is still normal. Right, it took about 6 to 8 minutes for it to come around. Alright, with it plugged in, so I think it's the advancement distributor, because this wire is doing its job. If I shut it off, unplug it, and then start it back up again, it holds rock solid at 8. I think I had my numbers wrong before, but it's rock solid at 8. I think this is supposed to be a 6-degree base, and it's 2 degrees advanced. Yep. Right there on the original sticker, 6 degrees. We got it at 8, just 2 degrees advanced. Some people run them at 10 or so. This thing runs like a bat out of hell at 8 base. But you can see with the wire, that 8 is really 16. So you do 14 and 16, which is what the computer's giving it. So it seems to be a mechanical problem in the distributor. I think whatever the mechanical advance is getting stuck, not advancing, and that's what's causing it. Because now it's running right. We can get in it and drive right now. Now let me shut it down before my antifreeze drink leaks everywhere, and I'll show you. All right, so we've been batting our hands around like crazy. Nothing I read online or in any of the forums said anything about a distributor problem, but we got a distributor problem. Our antifreeze here, I had a leak that appeared over the winter. So it looked like the thermostat housing gasket, so I took it apart, replaced it. The thermostat looked brand new. I think I put the thermostat in. Just replaced the gasket, and I siliconed it down good so it wouldn't leak again. And then it started leaking, and it turns out the thermostat housing is cracked. So we were able to source that on eBay pretty easily, and we'll do a separate video on replacing that, because you got to take a bunch of stuff apart. But I think it's going to be distributor time. I think that's what it is. Just like Robbie's K5 distributor, this thing, when you unplug it, it does what it's supposed to do. I'm gonna tuck it back there, right where it's supposed to be for now. Tucked back behind the harness like that so it doesn't chafe on anything. And we're gonna order up a distributor. I think that's gonna fix this thing. So that's our diagnosis. We'll do the repair in another video, and then we'll see if it actually fixed the problem. I think it will. I think we've got a good chance it's going to fix the problem. I'm willing to gamble at this point on the distributor now. Everything points to that. Like I said, it was bad in Robbie's K5, and just, you know, it seems like a lot of these things, what goes wrong in one car goes wrong in the other just because of age. Age and not constant use. You know, cars that you drive seasonally, things break that don't break on cars that you drive every day or more than seasonally. So, hope you enjoyed the long, wordy diagnostic video. Wound up using 2 different timing lights because it was jumping around so much. I just wanted to be sure and check them with both, and it all worked out. Hope you enjoyed the video. Comments down below, please. Let me know what you think. Have you run into this before? And what's that tan wire with the black trace? They call it the timing set wire that you disconnect there to set the timing. What is that supposed to be? Is it supposed to be volts? Are we looking for volts, ohms, millis, something or others? croutons, let me know. Thanks for watching.